My name is Millie, short for Millicent, but no one calls me that unless I'm in trouble or someone's trying to sell me life insurance. I'm 45 years old, and if I were a cocktail, I'd be 2 parts chaos, 1 part glitter, and a squeeze of something citrusy just to keep people guessing. I live loud, I laugh louder, and I don't do anything halfway unless it's cleaning out the garage. I've always believed in the healing power of humor. If we don't laugh, we crack. And cracking isn't cute past 35. So I laugh. I make people laugh. I've been told that my laugh could probably rattle a chandelier loose if I really let it out. When I walk into a room, I bring the weather. Sometimes it's sunshine. Sometimes it's a tornado in sequins. Either way, you'll remember me. At the company I work for, event planning, if you must know, everyone calls me the walking after party. When I'm in the room, even the introverts loosen up, and if they don't, well, I just pour them a second mimosa and wait. Laughter follows me like a faithful dog. It's my armor, my currency, my protest banner against the serious, the stiff, the solemn. But life has its own sense of humor. I was 20 when I met Lee's father, Darren. The man had a grin that could melt concrete and a brain wired like mine, quick with comebacks and never short on absurd ideas. We used to joke that our marriage would either change the world or explode like a glitter bomb in a microwave. Guess which one it was? 3 years in, it became clear that we couldn't share the same house without also sharing an ambulance. We fought with punchlines. We stormed out mid-pun. We tried to solve arguments with impressions of each other, which never helped. We broke up, I say now with a wink, because the house wasn't big enough for 2 comedians. We'd have died laughing, literally. But out of that whirlwind came Leroy, my son, my miracle, my partner in crime. He's 22 now. And while I often feel like I gave birth to my best friend, I also know he's his own man. A good man. One who didn't just inherit my sense of humor but tempered it with something I never had at that age, a sense of timing. While I'll leap off the diving board just to make a splash, Lee will check the depth first. Twice. Maybe 3 times. And then he'll cannonball. We go to parties together sometimes, Lee and I. That may sound strange to some people, but those people probably also believe that parents should only exist in beige sweaters and ferry their kids to soccer practice while drinking lukewarm coffee. Not us. I've always said, raise your kids like they're your favorite people to talk to, not tiny projects you're scared of screwing up. Lee and I. We talk. We laugh. We've seen the same movies and share the same love of spicy food and awful British panel shows. He's got his own life, of course. I hear about it in little pieces, the way you hear a song through a closed door. He tells me when he's dating someone new, when a classmate says something outrageous, when someone didn't get the joke again and stormed out of the bar. Black humor is an acquired taste, like blue cheese and bourbon. And neither of us have the patience to explain it to someone who thinks sarcasm is a character flaw. Lee jokes that neither of us will ever settle down, not because we can't, but because no one funny enough has applied for the position. Every time I meet someone who wants to get to know me, it's always the same. They'll flirt, sure. Compliment my laugh, tell me they love a woman who's full of life, ask me to tone it down just a little. That's when I know it's not going to work. I'm not a dimmer switch. And men who flirt as a way to start conversations usually end up talking to themselves. I told Lee that once over a beer, while we sat on the floor of the living room with a bowl of pretzels between us and an old Tom Petty record spinning low in the background. He had just broken things off with someone he described as a really good person who didn't get my jokes and wanted me to wear button-downs more often. He'd tried. Bless him. But Lee doesn't do compromise when it comes to his sense of self. I respect the hell out of that. You'd think there'd be more people like us, I told him, sipping from my bottle. People who understand that humor is a love language. People who get it when you say something awful and laugh instead of looking at you like you're trash. He grinned at me. Maybe we're the endangered species. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. Some nights, it does make me a little sad, the idea that the only person who truly gets me is the one I raised. That we can both walk into a room and see the same absurdity, the same joke waiting to be plucked out of the air, and no one else seems to catch it. It makes us close, yes, but it also makes it hard to let anyone else in. We've tried. He's met women. I've met men. But it's always the same. Too serious. Too controlling. Too offended by jokes about existential dread and farting in elevators. The thing is, I don't want to be anyone's project. And neither does Lee. We don't want fixing. We just want someone to laugh with us until our stomachs hurt and our eyes water and the world feels, just for a moment, a little less heavy. So we wait. And in the meantime, we dance at parties. We share beers on the couch. We tell each other everything, or at least everything that matters. And when the world gets too heavy, we remind each other that it's okay to laugh. Even if nobody else gets the joke. Especially then. There are parties, and then there are yacht parties. And let me tell you, I've never been the woman to say no to one. Especially not when the invite is handwritten on gold-trimmed stationery by a girl like Susie. Susie is one of those people who glides through life like a perfectly synchronized Instagram reel. She's gorgeous, yes, but more importantly, she's kind. The real kind. The kind who hugs with both arms and doesn't fake laugh at your jokes. I've known her for a couple of years now. She came to me through my side hustle, where I keep half the women in town from tearing their toenails off in desperation. I did her manicure once. She said something about liking my playlist, and the next thing I knew we were having cocktails in my kitchen while I soaked her hands in rose oil. That's how most of my friendships start. The thing is, Susie is also one of Lee's closest friends. Strictly friends. She's made that clear since day one, and Lee never once acted like it should be anything else. I admired that about him, how he never pressed or assumed. So many guys his age think women are vending machines. Push a few buttons, get what you want. But Lee, he listens. He respects. He waits for the energy to be mutual. And when it's not, he shrugs, pours another drink, and keeps the friendship intact. God, I wish I'd had that skill at 22. Anyway, Susie was turning 25 and wanted to throw a party that looked like a perfume ad. Her words, not mine. She rented a yacht, invited about 20 people, and asked me and Lee to come along. I didn't hesitate. There are 3 things I will never say no to: free cocktails, dancing near large bodies of water, and being mistaken for 10 years younger in natural sunlight. We were picking out swimsuits when it hit me how easy it was to do this sort of thing with Lee. Most guys don't want their moms anywhere near their parties. But Lee, he was flipping through racks with me, offering commentary on each bikini like he was my personal stylist/cheerleader. When I held up the white one-piece with the deep neckline and dramatic cutouts, I asked, half joking, "Is this too much?" Lee didn't even blink. "I think this is exactly what you need for your beautiful forms." I laughed, but it lodged somewhere deeper than my chest. That word, forms, so formal, so careful, so specific. There was a pause between us after he said it, the kind that breathes, not breaks. He picked a dark blue pair of trunks for himself, tight enough to be bold, but not screaming for attention. I teased him as he held them up. "We're going to look like 2 movie stars. You're going to make everyone jealous." He winked. "Only if you let me drive the boat." We left the store high on summer air and the kind of laughter that only bubbles up between 2 people who don't need to perform for each other. I threw the bags in the back of my Mercedes convertible. Yes, I drive a Mercedes, because if a girl can't enjoy the spoils of a midlife crisis, what is she even doing? We blasted some Ted Swims on the stereo, something about heartbreak and whiskey, naturally, and I held onto my baseball cap like the wind had a grudge against joy. I felt electric. Not young exactly, but something even better. Timeless. That night, I had to head out for one last client. Manicure and pedicure, someone new. Lee dropped me off like the world's most casually stylish chauffeur. I blew him a kiss as I stepped out. "Don't forget to bring the cooler tomorrow," I said. "I won't. Text me when you're done. I'll pick you up." That's what he said. He always says that. I finished the appointment, an older woman who wanted neon pink and refused to let me touch her cuticles, and by the time I stepped outside, Lee was already parked across the street, sipping from a paper cup like he'd been waiting forever. I slid into the car and let out a dramatic sigh. "Saved again by my glamorous son," I said. "What would I do without you?" "Probably get a Vespa and join a girl gang," he replied. I threw my head back and laughed. But instead of driving straight home, we took a left toward the beach. It wasn't planned. It never is. The sea was calling, as it always does this time of year, when the nights are warm and the sky puts on a show just for us. We parked close enough to hear the tide, but far enough to avoid the crowds. We walked down to the sand with our shoes in hand, the kind of quiet between us that didn't need filling. The sky was bleeding orange and lilac over the water, and the first stars had started to blink into existence. We sat down on a blanket we always kept in the trunk and opened 2 beers. Mine was light and crisp. His, something darker. I glanced at him sideways. "You excited for tomorrow?" He nodded. "Yeah, it'll be fun." Then silence again. Not awkward. Just thick. I sipped slowly, letting the foam kiss my lip, and finally said, "You know, sometimes I think no one else sees us. Not really. Not like we are. Just you and me, laughing at the same twisted jokes and thinking about things the same strange way." Lee looked at me then. Really looked at me. "I see you," he said. Just that. Simple. Quiet. But it hit me harder than any punchline ever could. I didn't respond. Not right away. I just let the sound of the waves speak for me. He tossed a pebble into the surf and added, "You know, Susie said something today. She said we're like the same person split into 2. "And yet," I said, raising my brow, "I clearly got the better cheekbones." He smiled. But there was something else beneath it. A pause. A softness that hadn't been there earlier. I looked away, heart suddenly unsure of itself. The sun dipped behind the horizon, and everything turned that magic shade of blue. He leaned back on his elbows, the muscles in his arms catching the light, his face calm, peaceful. I'd seen that face since the day he was born, but tonight, something about it was different. Older. Still him. But more. "I hope," I said quietly, "that tomorrow doesn't change anything." He didn't answer right away. Then, "Me too." We finished our beers in silence. But when we stood to go, and his hand brushed mine, just a casual passing touch, my breath caught. A strange feeling curled in my chest. Not fear. Not even confusion. Just the sense that something was shifting. And tomorrow. Tomorrow was waiting. The sun shimmered across the ocean like it knew it was being watched. The yacht rocked gently beneath our feet, champagne flowed, and the air buzzed with that breezy kind of joy only found in perfect weather and better company. Susie's party had unfolded like a dream, gold banners fluttering, a DJ playing sun-drenched pop, and those low, throaty laughs only people under 30 seem to have. Except me, of course. I laugh like I mean it. Always have. Then came the game. "Everyone, pair up," Susie called, beaming, cheeks flushed from Prosecco. It was one of those absurd, gloriously chaotic games where the back partner lifted the front one and the one in front tried to draw a picture on a whiteboard with their feet. Don't ask why. These were yacht people. Yacht people don't need reasons. Lee and I partnered up without thinking. We always do. It was natural. Too natural. Ready? He asked, grinning behind me. Ready to fly, I joked, letting him lift me. His arms wrapped around my thighs, my torso bent back against his chest, and suddenly I wasn't laughing. I was pretending I hadn't felt that unmistakable heat pressing against me, something that didn't feel accidental. My breath hitched. I looked forward and forced a laugh, dragging a wonky smiley face across the board with my toes as people shrieked with laughter. Millie, you killed it! Susie shouted. But I couldn't hear anything but my heartbeat. The moment we were done, I turned to Lee, smiling too brightly. Come on. Let's go take some Instagram pictures. I need a distraction. We made our way to the back of the yacht. Just us. Just the hush of waves and a breeze full of secrets. I started posing, knee forward, one hand in my hair, the other playing with the hem of the white suit I maybe should have had second thoughts about. But his voice stopped me. Wow, he said, low. You pose so beautifully. I turned, and the way he was looking at me, it wasn't playful. It wasn't teasing. It was full. Like he saw something no one else had seen in years. I didn't speak. We stood shoulder to shoulder, scrolling through the photos on my phone. I felt his hand brush my waist. Then, slowly, he leaned in, resting his chin lightly on my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. A spark ran straight down my spine. My fingers stiffened around the phone. It was too much, too close, too real. I turned slowly to look at him, our eyes locking. Something flickered between us, unspoken, electric, terrifying. We need to go, I said, voice tight. No joke. No smirk. Just heat flooding through my ribs like wildfire. Back with the others, soft jazz played. The kind that makes you want to sway without realizing. Couples had already paired off, dancing on the teak deck beneath strings of white lights. We have nowhere to go, Lee said, gently wrapping an arm around my waist. We have to do this too. What if I did it? I whispered. He smiled, and his grip tightened just enough. Then I'd say it's about time. He pulled me into the music. And I melted. I let myself be held. Let my cheek rest near his. Let our bodies move as if they'd done this 1,000 times. As if the rhythm had always existed between us and we'd only just now decided to hear it. By the time the yacht docked, I didn't know which way was forward anymore. That night, we crashed at Susie's. She had a spare bedroom with a porch and a view of the sea. We fell asleep like we used to after long summer days, side by side, tired and sun-kissed. But somewhere deep in the night, I woke. The moonlight painted silver across the floorboards. I heard the soft sound of Lee getting up, padding barefoot to the kitchen for a drink. I lay still, heart pounding. I turned away from him in bed when he returned, pretending to be asleep. And then, I felt him behind me. The warmth, the breath, the quiet way his arm hovered just before settling beside mine. I didn't know how I'd wait for morning. Something had changed. Everything had. And I don't know whether I would be against it.